Hey, coaches, this is Coach Parker with Coaching Youth Football Tips and Talk podcast. How you guys doing today? I know it's been a while for the podcast, but I had a really great time last night at a seventh grade practice. I got to coach the Big Hogs, which hopefully everybody knows, or you will now. I absolutely love coaching the offensive line. That's kind of my deal. Really, I'm a big guy, and for the first part of my youth football career, up until I was about from 7 to 16, I played offensive line before getting my, I guess, speed before becoming a fullback and a linebacker. So yeah, I have a lot of years playing the offensive line and absolutely love coaching it. So I thought I'd go over what we did last night and talk about kind of the practice plans for an offensive line coach for youth football. You know, I guess you could say from 5 to 7th grade now. I've coached 7th graders and 8th graders in 7-on-7 flag, but this was the first time for me, 7th grade official, doing some O-line stuff. Last week I'd worked with the backs, and this week I've got the offensive line, and we had a great time last night. So before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you get a chance, and follow me over on Facebook, Twitter, and over on my WordPress site, coachparker.org. So let's talk about what happened last night. So I've been asked to come back over to a team that I'd coached in the youth level, and our league had allowed 7th graders to come in, and I'd already gone back down and started coaching another age group down at the 7-8-year-olds. And so one of the coaches on our old team took over that 7th grade team, and he asked me to come over to make some tweaks on the offense and just look at the defense. And you know, I'm not coaching this season, so I thought, yeah, I'll come over and see what the 7th graders are all about. And I've really had a good time last week with the offensive backs, and this week I'm with the offensive line. And last night we started to go over that, and so. We just started going over what their general blocking rules were. I noticed in the last couple of game films, they were kind of cowboy and rogue doing kind of what they wanted. So just wanted to solidify that. So what we did is I set up a whiteboard at practice, and we had a chalk talk, and really wanted to show them, you can talk to 7th graders a little bit different than 10-year-olds. So I wanted to show them basically what rules they were using, what my rules that I kind of tweaked last week with the backs, and just make sure they knew really what the rules meant and why, and then showed them on the whiteboard against a 5-3-6-2 and a 4-4 defense why we're blocking these particular rules and how they would approach that. And so a couple, the rules that they're using are God, gap on down, and I'd installed gold, which gap on linebacker down. Since a lot of these defenses are running more linebackers, we want to make sure we get off to them. We put in jaw, which is a severe angle block down for everybody because they were running some beast plays. And so that's what jaw is everybody basically blocks down on a severe angle track. And then we talked about what they were doing on pass pro. And then we had put in 2 audible tags for when linebackers blitz the A gaps or were just stacked up in the A and Bs, which were cannon for the 3 interior guys, and dominoes for the 5 interior guys. So we just talked about those and walked through those on the chalkboard and kind of live, just real quick on what the steps and why we would be doing some of this. And then I drew up the offense versus these 5-3-6-2 and 4-4 defense and showed them, this is gap on, linebacker down. This is why we're going this way and doing this, because if you do the rule, you're going to pick up all of these guys, and then we're going to kick out the DNs, or the wing back will pick out the DN and corners, and we're going to deal with that. They had a really hard time understanding on not blocking outside on a particular DN or outside linebacker because we're trying to block in and we want to kick out with our fullbacks and stuff. And they were just having a really hard time with it. And the tackle and the tight ends didn't really understand we want you going after really chipping off and going after the linebackers. And so we talked about that quite a bit. And so that chalk talk lasted about 20 to 30 minutes, and it was very positive. I think they understood a little bit more when we drew it out for them so they could see it. And then I decided to take that now to the field. And so we did. When we got to the field, what we started doing, we broke out. The backs went over to their backfield practice, and I took all the linemen with the other lineman coach, and we started doing just the steps, which I know is really boring to a lot of people, but I go through this progression 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 step progression and get off just so we can get this inside step. I'm a big believer in jab stepping inside first because the inside gap is the most important gap, just to make sure we're not getting any leaks on the inside. A lot of these defenses we're still playing in this youth rec league, even for 7th grade, are 6-man, 7-man. I mean, the last 2 games these guys were just heavily stunting every gap, sending about 8 or 9 player through gap, knowing that their team doesn't really pass or has passed effectively enough, probably under pressure to get the ball off. So I think that's why these 2 teams are doing that. So we've put in that cannon and domino call for them. And so we're trying to step down right now and just clear up the leaks that we're having from the inside rush. So we're going through these inside steps and just stepping 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, and make sure everybody's low. The alignment on the line is good. We wanted to go from they were in a 0 gap. We wanted to go to at least a 6-inch gap. And so we've been talking about that. So we went over gold and jaw in the step drills and pass pro and did that for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then I also went over to the backs for a minute, and we talked about a count system for them when they're outside the tight end and who they're supposed to block, and went through that. The first person gets the 1 guy, second's got 2, three's got 3, and to make sure that they're just not because what we're having is they're just running around not knowing who they were blocking. So we want to make sure, sort of like on special teams, you're going to count the guy and make sure we've got that guy covered and blocked. And for the backs, we also talked about a mirror shield blocks. That they don't need to take the guy to the ground like offensive line. They just need to shield. And then I came back over to the offensive line group, and we did more of the rule blocking now with so we took players and set them up in front of the offensive line in a 5-3-4-4 and a 6-2, and we had them go through the rule progression for jaw and gold and god and pass pro, and talk about whose responsibility is for each man, and then if somebody comes up, why we would call cannon or the domino audible blitz call, and then what would happen from that. We need to put in next on Friday our butt-to-butt split blocks when we do ISO plays and how that's going to work. But I didn't put that in yesterday because I wanted to make sure that we were stepping inside, because they're really having a hard time understanding that you've got to pick up the inside guy if he's coming in. You can't just, there's a guy in your gap and a guy on you. You have to block the inside guy. That's just the way it is. And they're having a hard time understanding that particular fact. So we went through that for about 20 minutes, just making sure that they could point out and understand who they were picking up. And then we talked about the communication process, that, hey, who should help me if I have a problem, and how to deal with that particular thing. And if they are getting beat, and no one's mentioning that in the huddle, they need to coach themselves as a team to say, hey, Tom, why aren't you picking up that guy? Do you need help? because we as coaches can't see that, but they can certainly see, that, hey, this particular player is making every tackle. They need to talk as a team how to deal with that, not just the coaches. So I talked to them about communication, that they're old enough now to talk to their other teammate and ask them, do you need help? Do we need to talk to the coach about what's going on? Just don't continue to get beat and allow this to happen. If some guy keeps making every tackle, maybe you guys need to decide that guy's not going to continue to make the tackle anymore. They can do that. We don't have to watch for that. And also about their intensity level. A lot of these guys are playing great defense because we don't have enough kids to two squad. So the majority of the offensive line is playing on defense, and the defense for this team is outstanding. It's one of the best defensive teams that I've seen. And so that intensity that they're using on defense is not translating to them when they're blocking. They don't have that unit teamwork in them yet. So we were talking to them about that you need to take the intensity that you have defensively and bring that to the offensive line and use that same intensity there and work as a unit and stop letting the backs get killed because you guys aren't following the rules. And that's part of the problem that we've had is they've set these rules up, but the kids are kind of going rogue and cowboy and doing their own stuff. So really by setting up those defenses and showing them why, I'm hoping that they'll get an understanding in their head of really how that's going to occur now and why we're asking them to block this rule. Because we had a couple of them say, well, there's nobody in front of me on this rule. And I'm like, yeah, now you go hunt somebody and we try to understand where the play is going. And then we go hunt, especially with gap on linebacker, down defender is, you're not going to just take 3 steps and stop. You're going to inside step, jab, look for the gap on guy, and then find the linebacker, usually an inside linebacker. And if no one's there, it's defender, help your friend, whatever. And then hunt and find somebody to block. But don't turn around and watch the play, which is what we've had kind of been going on the last several weeks. And so we went through that whole thing and then, hey, if you get up there and you brain fart, what are you going to do? Well, you're blocking down first, that's for sure, because nobody's going to come through that hole. And then you need to go find somebody and block. But don't just stand and watch the play and the running back get tackled. And we talked about that also, that, hey, you need to become part of the tackle. If you've been blocking and you look over and 3 kids are sitting on the running back, just don't stand and watch the running back get blocked. Go over there and try to block those tacklers off the running back or push the running back for another yard. But just don't watch the running back get crushed. And we talked about, maybe you need to learn to be a running back someday and not have any blocking and how that feels. And when we told them, how it feels not have any blockers and 3 guys tackle you, their eyes opened up a little bit more and how that would maybe hurt. So we let them know the backs are taking a lot of pain for their lack of blocking, and they're not really happy about it. The backs aren't. So we went through a lot of stuff and a lot of philosophical ideas that I'd laid on them about why they need to block harder and why they need to work better as a unit and as a team and really up their intensity. And I brought fudge brownies to practice and told them I had that if they really up their intensity level, which really occurred in the next drill, which was the drill before we broke out into team, is that we did the sumo drill. And the sumo drill is basically like the old bull in the ring, but we don't stand up, and this is an offensive drill. And the 2 players, we get 2 players into the middle. They're faced each other on their knees with their hands on their kneecaps, and we do the snap count, and each of them are supposed to have quick hands that punch the chest, engage into the chest shoulder pads, and then roll, and they drag out of the ring, kind of like a sumo wrestler pushes the guy out of the ring. And so it's all about an aggression and a quick hands drill. Because quick hands, which we were talking to them about, especially when we're looking at their stances. We want one hand ready to go so they can get out and punch on it. Is the quick hands and the belly button on their belly button and getting into the person. That's really how you could do a really good block. You really want to get your hands, your body on the other player and drive them off the line of scrimmage and not wait for the defender to hit you. So we want to get our hands on the defender fairly quickly so we can start directionally pushing them and driving them where we want them to go. And at this younger age, that makes a really big difference because we've been kind of timid about that. And so I'm trying to get these guys aggressive. And that's what the sumo drill does, is we're trying to get them quick hands, punch, and then basically WWE that guy out of the ring. And then the winner stays in for 3 times. And then we have a championship if we got 2 or 3 winners. And the boys did get into that drill and enjoyed that drill. And we saw some good aggression there. And so that helped. And then we went over to team offense and basically, aligned to let the backs run their plays through our blocks. And we had the boys making sure they were making the steps, dealing with the good snap in the center. And we're still struggling at center, and I'm a little concerned about that, getting the snap off. We had a small center last week because they've had 2 other centers that got hurt. And so I moved a bigger guy in that I know he's sort of played center before. And so we're going to try to work that out. And I like big centers because we can wedge and do some things off of that. So hopefully we can get that to work out this week. Otherwise, we'll need to go back to the small center. The small center has got a nice shotgun snap. He's just having trouble with a bull rush from a nose guard. And hopefully we'll get the larger center to work that out and get through that. But I had a great day with the offensive line, 7th graders yesterday. And, most of this stuff that I've talked about is on my offensive line practice plan, 90-minute one-pager over at coachparker.org. It's basically 10 minutes of alignments and gap splits, 10 to 20 minutes on get-offs, 20 minutes in blocking rules, 30 minutes in blocking techniques, and drill time. And so it's an hour and a half, one-page kind of deal that you can use for your entire week of offensive line practice. And it's a quick little reminder page that you can use. It also is an O-line bundle package. It's $11.99 over at Coach Parker too. So you can get all this all nice and organized in one kind of thing over there on my website. But I hope you enjoyed the podcast today about what happened yesterday. I know I've kind of rambled a little bit, but haven't got a podcast out. And for some reason, I guess I just had so much fun last night. I really wanted to talk about it today. And for you coaches that don't really focus on your offensive line, I've head coached for many years, and I will still coach the offensive line because really football is about blocking and tackling. And if your team can block, you can be very competitive and have a great season. So this is Coach Parker with coachparker.org. Thanks for joining me today. And remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. Ciao. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.